Welcome to TYT Sports. Jason and Andre Snelling's here. When Andre's here, we talk about hoops. Love when we shoot these on Fridays because we get to talk about hoops. So the hashtag NBA rank was trending all this week, all last week, probably for a lot longer, considering they opened the floodgates with a position-by-position top 10 greatest of all time. They were asking for trouble when they make these lists because they are so much fun to debate. And of course, the Reddit community, the internet community, everywhere is on fire. So our comment section, it is your turn to debate whatever me and Andre have to say, as well as the list itself in the comment section below. We begin with the top 10 point guards of all time, at least according to ESPN. According to ESPN, Bob Cousy, number 10, Walt Frazier, number 9, Jason Kidd at 8, Steve Nash, number 7, Chris Paul, number 6, Isaiah Thomas, number 5, Stephen Curry, number 4, and then for you guys, we took the top 3 and made some little quote cards for you here. Number 3 was John Stockton of the Utah Jazz, a 10-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA selection, career 13.1 and 10.5 assists per game. Truly a transcendent point guard in his own way, and not made Malone's career. Malone was an amazing player, but of course had much to do with Malone's greatness. At number 2, Oscar Robertson, the Big O. You know, he only averaged a triple-double one season, probably a record I would think we would never see again. Cincinnati Royals back in the 60s and then to the Milwaukee Bucks in the 70s. The 1963-64 MVP, 11-time All-NBA selection, of course Hall of Famer. Of course, the average of triple-double season, which was huge for that. And it's also a major reason why people like LeBron cite him as one of the greatest ever because of how transcendent of a game the Big O had. And then at number 1, not too much argument could be for me on this one. I'm curious from Andre's end, but Magic Johnson, another transcendent player, and is right. Nobody was his size with his handles and his court vision. The Showtime Lakers, man, 5 NBA championships under Magic, 1980, 82, 85, 87, 88. Career 19.5 points per game, 7.2 boards, 11.2 assists, shot 52% from the field. And then, of course, one of the quotes that I like to pull from this one, the card has, I think, a different one, but another great one is his Game 6 in the 1980 Finals. While jumping center as a 20-year-old rookie, got to be on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest postseason performances in league history, at least according to Micah Adams. Andre, the list is good. I think I got a lot of this right. I disagree with some of the order. Of course, it's all up to opinion. Who do you think, or do you agree with the order in this list, and what would you change if you could?
So I may make some changes, but I guess the first thing I would say is that any of these ranking lists depend a lot on what your criteria are. Mm-hmm. You know, for some people, it's going to be about how good was this player in their time. And then for some people, it's going to be about how good would they all play if you had a time machine and they could all play right now. Mm-hmm. Some people like to look at career. Some people like to look at peak. That's going to change your list. For me, I'm kind of a snob when it comes to these lists. I don't normally make them much, but I've actually participated in this type of project a couple years ago. A panel of 48 of us spent a whole summer arguing over, we went position by position till we got to 100. And so our list was very similar to theirs. We ended up with Magic number 1, Oscar. I would argue that Jerry West should be a point guard. I think he's listed on the shooting guard for ESPN, but he played, to me, point guard at least as much, probably more so than the shooting guard. He was more of a prototypical Steph Curry to me than the shooting guard. So I would have him up there pretty high. And then we had Nash, Stockton, Walt Frazier, Paul, Kidd, Peyton, and Zeke. Cousy, I think, came in number 13 for us, but we didn't go so much on era dominance. We try to look at skill set. So if you're going to look in era dominance, then obviously Cousy would be higher than that.
Hey, that's awesome that you participated in one of those. You said 48 guys. That's great. And of course, I love how it took an entire summer of just constantly arguing over hoops. That seems like the greatest summer that could ever happen. But I thought you make, of course, great points, very objective as always. I thought that Gary Payton maybe had a shot at being in the top 10. If anything, number 10. Was he better than Bob Cousy? Tough to argue, totally different eras of basketball. But at least defensively, where we highlight Chris Paul so much for his always elite level of defense at the point guard position, and of course his court vision, Gary Payton is right up there with him in terms of defensive. You don't get the name the glove because you're not a good defender. Of course, in Trash Talk game, he's probably up there too. But there's one issue I have with the list, and the one issue is Steph Curry. I looked at this list and I said, if the NBA ended today, which would be the saddest day in the history of the world, right? Steph Curry is a great player. He has a championship to his name. He is changing the way we play the game. But Chris Paul has done more from the point guard position. I know he hasn't won, but his pure point guard ability on skill set alone, I would just swap him for now, at least for now. Maybe put Paul at the 4.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point because it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier. What are your criteria? And so if you're looking at peaks, then yeah, maybe you could put Steph really high because he hasn't had a long career, but his peak already looks outstanding.
Right.
But I don't see how you could logically have a list with Curry at number 4 and Stockton at number 3.
Right.
Like they're the two extremes. One was all longevity and the other one is all peak. And I don't think they can be next to each other. So I agree with you. If I was making this list, Curry wouldn't be in my top 5. I'm not sure because I'm looking at entire career.
Right.
I don't know that he could be in my top 10. I mean, if so, it would be barely. But even if you say 5 years of Curry, he was injured for a lot of those first few years. So you're really looking at like 3 healthy all-pro kind of years out of Curry. Do I take that or do I take a career of Jason Kidd, a career of Steve Nash, who, by the way, has won 2 MVPs?
Well, of course.
A career of Walt Clyde Frazier, who you mentioned, Gary Payton is the glove, but Frazier may have been the best defensive point guard of all time. I don't think Curry can be in this company if you're talking career value. Now, again, if you're making a list of peaks, which that same group of people that I was just talking about, that was our project this year, is we did a top
peaks?
50 peaks. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, Steph Curry, knock yourself out. He can be way up the list.
Right.
But if you're talking career, he still has a little bit left to do.
Well, Andre, I'm curious what the audience thinks. And granted, the YouTube audience tends to be younger, so you're growing up with Steph Curry. Not discrediting. There's probably older people who are watching on YouTube as well. Where do you put him on this list? Do you keep him off? Where do you do in terms of your ranking for top 10 greatest point guards of all time? It's a dangerous list. It's going to be a dangerous comment section. We're happy to debate with you back and forth. Make sure to check out Andre over at rotowire.com. The Hoops Lab, again, as I plugged in the last one, a great article on Draymond Green most recently, amongst others. There's also some great ones on Steph Curry and what he's doing at the point guard position this year as well. At Professor DRZ on Twitter, at JasonRubin91 for myself, and of course at TYT Sports. Go over there, give us a follow. See you next time.